What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we are here with Bobby of Saliva. Thank you so much for being here today, man. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. We got some exciting things happening for 2021 with the re-recording of Every 6 Seconds being released as every 20 years. It's so cool to be able to relive this album, after it coming out when I was in first grade. One thing I'm curious about is being that this is sort of like a re-recording and kind of revisiting older material. Is this fairly different from what you've done in albums such as In It to Win It or Rise Up or Love Lies in Therapy in a way, or is there maybe a kind of similar vein incorporated in there?
Well, the only thing in common with those records would probably be that I I handled a lot of the recording aspect of it. Um, but with those other records, there's a lot more on your shoulders as far as writing, and you're creating new songs. And is this song any good? Does this song suck? There's a lot of that. And with these songs are already established songs, and very, the whole world knows these songs. So it was more of like the approach was, let's celebrate the 20th anniversary. Let's re-record like five of the songs, and let's just release it to the fans, man. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about any of that. Let's have fun with it, and celebrate why the band exists today. So
Yeah, and you coming into Saliva was I thought really a good touch. While I love Every 6 Seconds and Back Into Your System
yeah,
and Survival of the Sickest, I do think that
yeah.
albums such as Rise Up and your most recent album, 10 Lives, is still a really fun album to listen to. Were you kind of allowed to bring in your own sort of spin and bring in a little bit of your own mix into Every 20 Seconds in a way, or were you trying to maybe pay homage to like the earlier work as well, kind of like maybe sticking in a similar structure?
We didn't want to piss off the fans, the people that love those songs. So with technology, a lot different today from 20 years ago, and we just wanted to like re-record them and just sonically give them more, ass, and more like low end, and then yeah, throw my vibe on it. And um, I've been singing those songs for almost a decade now too. So the it's I wouldn't say it was like challenging. It was more of just people are going to like it or hate it. I don't know. We just wanted to do something for the 20th anniversary, and when we got together to record them, it was pretty easy because Paul and Wayne had already done it. Yeah, it was. I would say they're like, wait, what was that part again that I did 20 years ago? Things like that. All the layers and stuff. Um, had to relearn some of that, but for the most part, we didn't spend a whole lot of time on it. We just tried to stay true to what the songs were, but we just throw my voice on them, and I have a lot of people that would always ask me about that, especially when we did like international tours and stuff. They seemed like they were way into that kind of thing, of new singers putting their vocals over the old music and stuff. So,
Yeah,
but
Killswitch
you
Engage did
can't.
it.
What's up?
Killswitch Engage did it back in the day. So
Yeah, and when you Journey did it, I mean, a lot of people do that kind of stuff, and I don't think it's any disrespect to the former singer. Maybe there's some like, we want to show the fans, look, hey, this guy, he can do it, or whatever. But that wasn't even the approach for us. It was, let's just, we're bored, man. Let's do something different. We put out these new records, but let's do something different for the 20th anniversary and re-record, not the whole thing, but we'll just do like five songs. And we added a sixth, so we covered Spoon Man by Soundgarden. So that'll be on there too.
yeah, I think that's more difficult because nobody, and no offense to you, but
Dude,
nobody could do what Chris Cornell did.
bro, it is very, I thought, because we covered Michael Jackson, They Don't Care About Us. I thought that was tough. But yeah, the Spoon Man is definitely tough with all the time signature changes and all that. But we stayed true to that song and tried to keep it raw, and I'm not a fan of tuning vocals anyway, so everything's really raw on it, and but yeah, that's gonna be fun. I had to learn how to play spoons. That was difficult.
Yeah. One question.
I'm upstairs with my headphones on, like jiggling like spoons together. My wife's like, "What the hell are you doing up there?"
Isn't that the story of every musician though, and their spouse? Yeah. Like what the hell are you doing in there? Like it's called rock and roll.
Oh yeah, exactly, and yeah. So,
and another question I have just regarding every 20 seconds is because again, I love the material that you were featured on with Saliva, the original material. Like In It to Win It, was a really fun record that I really enjoyed. I thought Rise Up, with singles like Thousand Eyes and the title track Wise Up or I Don't Want It. Great song.
That was a great song too.
Yeah. But like, do you think that maybe with the re-recording of stuff off of Every 6 Seconds, you maybe have like a different connection to it, or it resonates with you differently than the stuff that you wrote with the band?
Yeah, well, you had mentioned that when Every 6 Seconds came out, you were in first grade. I was a senior in high school. I was in 12th grade. So
sorry to make you feel old.
When that record came out, I heard that song on the first time I heard it was on the Dracula 2000 soundtrack. Back when soundtracks were big and like people would buy the soundtracks for the rock bands and that whole thing, and so that's where I first heard Your Disease, and I always liked that song, and when the record came out, I had discovered I'd actually forgotten about the band because the record wasn't out yet. So, and I think I was in Hot Topic, and they used to have the CDs on the wall, and you put the headphones on, you can listen to each track or whatever. That's how they would sell you on the CDs. So I saw Saliva and I was like, wait, I know that name. And then I started thinking, oh, that's that band from that soundtrack. Put them on, and I think the first song was probably Superstar or something. I kind of just scrolled through and was like, oh, that sounds good, so I bought it. And yeah, that was a record that definitely I had some connection with from the get-go, not even being in the band, outside of the band, just like everybody else did that loves that record. There are songs on that record, and you have to give a lot of credit to the producer, Bob Marlette, because a lot of those songs weren't, he had a way of bringing a lot of melody and good arrangement into that band and the songs. And, he's like an amazing, skilled piano player. He knew every note imaginable, minor, major. And I think he brought a lot of that to Saliva. So him producing that record, that's where a lot of that, came from. And then he's done a lot of other records too, like the first Shinedown record and Seether and a bunch of bands. So Bob, we had him in our documentary. We're releasing a documentary based around this every 20 years deal. And he tells a lot of stories and stuff, about how Click Click Boom came about and like Your Disease and stuff like that. So it's really interesting. But back to your question, the connection with me was always there. So getting into the band, I was already, Your Disease was already like one of my favorite songs and, of the Saliva era. So just being able to kind of put my stamp on it and, not try to not, fuck it up. It was kind of a good, it's positive all around, from me at least, I'm treating it positive. So
yeah, I mean, it's got to be a good memory. Who would have thought that you being in Hot Topic back in the day, like that you would end up singing for that band? I mean, it's a great story, and I think it's really interesting to see that when a band is doing stuff, and and you just imagine like, man, what if I meet this band one day? Let alone, what if I sing for that band one day? So it had to have been like an interesting moment.
Well, I'd been around them like at some festival style shows and stuff. And, my band 20 years ago had worked with Bob Marlette too on our record.
Which
we
band?
were a band called Burn Season. Season. We were on Elektra, but it was very short lived. But Bob did our record. So Bob had done the Back Into Your System record, and then he'd done Shinedown's record, first record, and then he did our record, Burn Season record. So I learned a lot from him and
I
heard a
just
lot of stories
I
already
just
about
realized I have
Saliva.
that
So
album. I just realized I have that
yeah,
album on my phone. With Carry
yeah.
On,
So
Walk Away, and Closer.
that's it. Yeah. So Bob Marlette, dude, if you heard Carry On before Carry On, dude, it was like it sounded like third graders wrote it. You know what I mean? And then Bob just made, dude, they changed all the vocals, they changed everything and made that song what it is. And that's why you know, yeah, there's this like circle connection thing with him as a producer, but I learned a lot from him then. And you know, so yeah, getting into Saliva you know, later on, I guess I never really thought, you know, that would happen, you know, until I got the call. We had mutual friends, and you know, when I got the call about that, the guy was like, "Oh yeah, Saliva, you know, they're going to call you about joining the band. They just heard some of my stuff, some of my recordings," and I thought that because I'm a drummer too, so I thought they were like looking for a drummer or something. And then it was like Paul, the drummer, who actually texted me and said, "Hey man," and what he said verbatim was, "Hey, this is Paul Crosby of Saliva." He didn't call me; he texted me. "It's Paul Crosby of Saliva. Would you be interested in singing in our band?" That's what he said. I was like, I don't even know you. Don't know any of these guys. That's just how it was. I mean, but that's how these guys are, man. They're very like just to the point. It happens or it doesn't. Moving on, you know. And I think, you know, when that happened, we just kind of they all came to Florida, and we went into the studio and we wrote like 3 songs, and that was pretty much it.
It was a
You
very
know?
organic process. I can't believe that I never knew that you were in Burn Season, because I remember having the album
Yeah.
recommended to me on iTunes, and you mentioned, I was like, I think I have a song on my phone, so I pulled up my phone immediately, and
Yeah.
realized, oh fuck, I have this music. So that's a
Yeah.
small world. I learned something new today.
Small world, man. Yeah.
Yeah, and that album came out when I was in 5th grade, but
Well, there you go, man.
but
Yeah. You know, there was a lot of that was a band. You know, I definitely like love those songs and stuff, and you get connected to those songs when you write and you express it. There's a lot of songs on like the Rise Up record or the Love Lies and Therapy records that those are songs I've had for years, man. Like Loneliest Snow, songs like that I've, you know, done. And you know, Wayne's like, "Bro, we got to throw this on the record, man. We got to throw this on the record." I'm like, "I don't know if it really fits." He's like, "I don't give a shit. We're throwing it on the record." So there was things like that happened that you have like a whole lifelong connection with, and then you know you put them on this record, and you hope that they translate with other people.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, with Burn Season, you know, there was a lot of songs on the record that people really loved and connected with, and it's just a shame that, you know, nothing really, we didn't have the push and didn't have the proper people behind it, man. It really takes that, you know. Back in the day, MTV really and radio broke they determined if you were going to be big or not.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you know, kind of going back to what you said, like, you don't know if this would fit on a Saliva song. I think what I've always admired about Saliva, so again, I was very young when I discovered, and to have a song, and I discovered like a lot of the earlier albums in abundances. Like I discovered a song off of Every 6 Seconds or Back to Your System, etc. And like, I always thought like you have a song like Click Click Boom, but you have like a ballad like Rest in Pieces. I think Saliva completely avoids the fate. And you helped prove that point even more when you joined the band, that there's no such thing as a Saliva song that sounds too much like a Saliva song. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And there's a little bit for everybody. I think that's kind of was always their approach. I mean, all their styles and what they were into, I mean, it's all comes from different, you know, genres. And I think a lot of that played a part into it, that they're like, "Oh, we're going to do this." But I mean, I have a funny story. Like, so I've heard obviously a million stories, bad and good, you know, being in this band. And, you know, the Rest in Pieces was written, Nikki Sixx and James Michaels wrote that from 6 a.m. So they, it was supposed to be a 6 a.m. song, and somehow it got leaked to the Saliva camp. And then they were like, "Oh man, let's cut this song." Or the label was like, "Let's cut this song." So I think On the Back Into Your System record was a very important record that they wanted to make sure they had enough like home runs, you know, no brainer singles. and you know, when always was the last track recorded on the record, and it was because the A&R guy had showed up, and he's listening to like the songs, and it was like Raise Up, and it was all these like heavy songs or whatever, and the A&R guy's sitting there, and he goes, and he put on How You Remind Me by Nickelback, and he said, there are none of these on here, and this song is like ruling everywhere right now. And that was the song so they needed a song like that was their approach. Was so Bob and I think Josie ended up going sitting in his pond and in his backyard, and that's how Always came about, you know. And the band hated it. They were like, this is the worst song ever. If we put this song on the record, then we're done, we're doomed, it's going to be the end of our careers. And look what happened.
Well, I was surprised with Back Into Your System, like, because one of my favorite Saliva songs is Weight of the World, and
that's a good one.
I remember though being really shocked, like this is the second song in, and we're already going to a more like melancholy version of it. Like I don't want to say I was taken aback by it, but like I was like, wait a minute, like we're already the second song in, and we're already going down like the dark dirt road, like. I was pretty surprised by that. I have two more questions for you. But as a vocalist, because you know you've written great lyrics for the stuff you came in with Saliva. Have you always needed to hear music to come up with lyrics, or can like a lyrical idea influence the direction of the music that you and Saliva write?
It can, because depending on where you're at, like in life, in what you're writing about. Is it aggressive, or is it like, you know, over here, you know, is it left field, right field, you know, and that can influence what you're thinking. But for me, mostly it's music first, you know. I'll like work on some music ideas, or music idea will come, and then I'll start thinking about lyrics and melodies. And a lot of the stuff that I write comes with me being in the car and listening, and I'll just start like, you know, humming melodies, and I start thinking like I'll like sing out lyrics that make absolutely no sense at all, and then sometimes I'll change it up and figure it out what works, or phrasing, and but then there's sometimes I'll sing stuff out, and then I'm like, I don't think this makes any sense, but then when you hear it back, it totally does, and it actually is what you're feeling inside, or it's really weird how that works, man, because I'll go listen to a lot of the Love Lies in Therapy lyrics, and I'm like, I don't even remember like how I was writing that or why I was writing that, but obviously I was feeling that at the time, and that's like real life stuff, you know. And I think that's what's so great about music, and people, you know, relating to it, is if they can connect and feel the same as you on that, then you help somebody, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, inspiration always strikes at the most inconvenient times. You can't do anything about it. Like, artists always tell me, it's either while they're driving, while they're in a really public place, or while they're in the shower. So there's just nothing you can do about it. Like, you got to take inspiration when it comes.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yep. And that led me to my final question is, do you like to leave the lyricism open to interpretation, or do you try to maybe engage the listener into what you're singing about? Because these lyrics are like no joke to me. Like, I think that your lyrics actually really do convey a message to the point where like it makes me curious to what were you thinking? What were you saying? And like,
well, I surprised myself, because subconsciously I'm not thinking that, oh, I'm going to write about this, and it's got to be about this or that. Like the song, like Tragic Kind of Love, or like Trust, or any of those songs were all written in my car driving. But like I was going through like just this crazy breakup and this crazy like, you know, situation types stuff that people deal with. And I wasn't like trying to write about that, but that's what was coming out. That was in my head, and my thought process of writing these lyrics or whatever. That was kind of, you know, that was just where I was, you know, the place I was in life. And even on the 10 Lives record, there was a lot of songs, a lot more an aggressive approach, and you know, being like the underdog, or people, you know, putting you down, or you're not good enough, or you're not this, and just being able to like rise above that, and So I think a lot of those songs, that was a more aggressive approach, that we tried to take. And lyrically, it happened that way.
Yeah.
I don't think I never like sit down and go, oh, I'm going to write a song, about this. It's just, I don't know. I think that when you do that, and sometimes it's killer. There's a lot of great songwriters that can write that way, but I've just never been one to be able to concept write.
Yeah.
I've been in the room with people that write that way, like some guys I know in Nashville who are incredible writers, and they could literally be like, "Oh, we're gonna write about an octopus today," and it'll be the coolest thing you've ever heard. But for me, I just can't concept write. I go blank.
Yeah.
It's like I have to focus on my inner, feelings.
Yeah, you already have to focus too on making sure that you have the right amount of syllables to feature the song structure as well. So you have way too many things to worry about on your plate.
Yeah, and melody, like I was a drummer, and then I started playing guitar at an early age, and then just kind of started songwriting, and so I think like a drummer when it comes to melodies too. I think as well, and or at least it feels that way. So I always think groove, and I think that helps a lot with my melodies and my approach. And I learned quite a bit from like Bob Marlette and some other like people I've written with, and you'll hear the way they'll do certain things, and it's like, damn, I never even thought of that. But then you'll end up using that later on in something else, and it just works, and you find what works, and you stick with it.
Drummers who become vocalists have more of an advantage than people think. Like one songwriter who I think is really great is Sal Abrascato. He used to drum for Typo Negative and Life of Agony, and now he sings in his own band called A Pale Horse Named Death. If you love Alice in Chains, you need to listen to that band. But
oh, right on, yeah. Alice in Chains like my favorite band.
Yeah, well, their 3 albums are like dirt level Alice in Chains. Like,
oh, then I got to check that out.
Yeah, but
I've heard of the band name.
Yeah, really good. If you
because I know the book, and that the coincidence of that was how I knew the band name. So
yeah, doom and gloom. Like be very depressed when you listen to it, and it's
right.
But like I remember interviewing him almost 3 years ago, and he like said like having a drummer, like having the drumming background, what words are gonna fit with what, like the rhythmic aspect of it. You're not just focusing on melody and words. It has to fit because, and believe me, you may not notice it too much, but when you listen to lyrics that don't fit over like the arrangement, oh my god, it could really throw the whole thing off. So
yeah. Drummers are able to think between the lines on that kind of stuff, and you have your foundation underneath, and you're able to, like, the drums is the easy part, really. But then there's people that can't play drums, and they're like, dude, that seems like that'd be the hardest part, but for a drummer that knows it, like a drummer like him probably too, and being able to, where you're going to place melodies, where you're going to put, and a lot of times, like for me, like I can come up with several melodies over the same part, and then just kind of go with one that works or put them all together. And I don't like to spend a whole lot of time, because my ADD won't let me. If I spend a whole lot of time, then I'm like, maybe it's just not that good. I'll move on to something else.
Yeah, definitely. And you got to capture a moment too. So
yeah.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today and for a great conversation. Is there just anything else that you would like to promote with Saliva, with the release of Every 20 Years? Maybe like a live stream performance, or any of your any of the 27 online platforms that every band has nowadays?
Right. Yeah. So we have our a streaming event from Las Vegas, April 9th. That's going to be really cool. Our documentary, we have a 20-minute long documentary that we did surrounding this Every 20 Years. That comes out April 30th. So, and then the EP drops May 7th. So yeah, it's exciting times right now. We got a bunch of shows, a bunch of package dates coming summer and in the fall, and we're excited to get back out and play some rock and roll. Jones in here, so.
Yeah, as we all are. But thank you
Yeah.
so much. It really means a lot, everybody. We are here with Bobby of Saliva every 20 years, May 7th. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We will see you next time. Click, click, boom.
Right, man.